Hello and welcome to another interview here on the Vicious VOX. This time we are here with Ricardo Pereira, vocalist of Moonshade. Hello Ricardo, welcome to the channel. It's a pleasure to have you here, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey man, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here. Great initiative, by the way. I love the channel. I love how it's going. Love your guests. What a nice choice. Just except me. Sorry for you just ruined it, but it went well so far.
Well,
thank you so much. Glad to be here.
You're leaving me scared for the rest of the interview. I hope it goes well. Just kidding. Shall we start then? When did you start doing extreme vocals, and what inspired you to do it?
Well, when did I start? I started out actually playing guitar in punk rock bands when I was like 15, 16. And when I got to about 20, 21, I think, about 20, my last punk band, which was Scars of the Mind, I think that was the name. We broke up and I started getting a little more into metal, and I met a few friends through something that you young kids probably don't remember, which was Metal Underground blog that we had. Yes, we had blogs back then. And we got together, played some songs. I was on bass, I remember, with a friend of mine who was a brilliant drummer, Luis Neto. We actually recorded our first EP in Moonshade.
Okay.
We were playing together. We had no lead singer, so we started kind of like more like harassing me to try to learn some harsh vocals. I was kind of into it at the time because like hardcore punk bands that I listened to, like Minor Threat and the Casualties, it's not exactly guttural vocals, but it's close enough. Like you have enough of an open mind. So he started showing me like Arch Enemy and Behemoth and Opeth, and I started like trying to get into it. I started doing some covers from the bands that they were showing me and that started resonating with me, like Dark Tranquility, Opeth. I tried to. They were good covers. And Lamb of God was a huge influence as well at the time, like Randy Blythe. I really resonated with Randy Blythe because he actually also came from a punk background. He always called himself like a punk. Yeah. He had that crystal clear voice that you can understand. He has amazing diction, but so much power at the same time. So yeah, then I did basically what everyone else does. I pirated the Zen of Screaming. In my defense, it had no idea how to get it legally. Didn't look very hard as well, but whatever. And that's how I learned the exercises. That's how I learned the differences between different styles, like the fry, the death growl, the inhale, the exhales, and everything else. I chose my style, which was fry, because, well, I like how plastic it is. How you can do basically anything with it. You can have like a huge range. It doesn't have a lot of intensity. It doesn't you have to really work hard to get projection, but you can get it with enough technique, but just more than enough projection to play live and to perform. And I liked how basically, to me, it was the style where you can more easily be understood if you do it correctly. You can have diction, you can have dynamics, you can have, and not just like dynamics verbally, but tonally. You can have like an actual range. You can go from a very low pitch to a high pitch, and it's not even very dependent on the timbre of your voice. It doesn't matter that I'm a baritone.
Yeah,
I can actually do a pretty low growl or a high pitch. That's why fry fucking rules. And that's it. So that's how it started. Then we had MySpace, which is another thing that, like Facebook, but with less Nazis, I think. We just used it for bands, and I found Moonshade. They had one song recorded, no lead singer. They had a huge ad on it looking for a lead singer. And the rest is history. It's been mostly downhill from there.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, you guys have been killing it lately. Really enjoyed the last album.
Thanks, bro.
To be honest, man.
It was a lot of work, so thank you.
Yeah, but as you were saying, the fries really they kind of take away from your original voice, so you can sound really different than you actually do. But that, in my opinion, there's a drawback to that. That I think a lot of fry vocalists tend to sometimes sound the same.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
The tonality is very similar because of that thing in question, because it takes away from the original voice. That's what distinguishes everyone else from each other. So yeah,
that's true. It does have a big range, but you can also, with enough training, in my opinion, you can add your own your own style to it. You can be easily recognized. It's just a matter of not stopping not stopping, never stop experimenting once you get the technique right, because that's actually, in my opinion, a flaw of many metal vocalists, especially many upcoming artists and even older artists that just they learn the basics of the technique, whichever technique. This is valid for all of them, and they just stay there.
Yeah,
they stop experimenting, they stop trying to model their voice, they stop this, and this is very important. They never or almost never study vocal styles beyond harsh vocals. They can teach us so much. For example, we have Will Ramos from Lorna Shore. The man's a genius. And why is he a genius? It's not just like pure genetics. The man does Mongol guttural singing. The man has amazing clean vocals. You can see in his latest covers, he covered Spirit Box. Like, he knows different vocal styles and he applies them to what he does. And that's why he sounds different, because he's doing fry vocals mostly. That's like 90% fry. And you hear Will Ramos, you can recognize him from like 50 kilometers away in a festival, in a different stage.
Yeah.
Like, true. So, because he experiments it, he has that particular tone that she applies. It sounds very wet. It sounds very like he always jokes around with that on social media. Like, sounds like a rat king, whatever. But that's his style, and it does sound different. You have many vocalists that, for example, I might be wrong, but I think Lamb of God is mostly fry. I think most of Melissa Cross's students are fry. Yeah. You also have Angela Gosso. We can recognize her very easily. You can even distinguish her very well from Elisa, the new vocalist in Arch Enemy, which also does fry. They're completely different from one another. But that takes training, that takes practice. You really have to apply yourself, because like you said, it kills a bit your natural sound. So so you gotta make another one.
Yeah. So talking about training, can you describe that your training process to us, and how you developed your own style of vocals?
So in the beginning, I really nerded out like on the exercises and on recording myself, listening to myself. And I developed this particularly raspy tone. It's not very deep. Like, if you listen to deathcore, it's not what I do. I actually like singing deathcore, but like in the privacy of my home. But in Moonshade, I have this more like raspy, barky tone, because it was actually a mix between the most powerful vocalists that I knew, because you listen to Whitechapel, for example, love Whitechapel, and they have a very deep, clean tone, whether it's lower or higher, it's always very clean. And then you have this is one side of what I love in terms of metal vocals. Then you have the other side, which is just raspy, mildly incoherent, like when you hear like in black metal bands, old school black metal bands.
Yeah.
Not a lot of technique but it sounds cool. It sounds raw. It sounds so I kind of, and you had like the hardcore punk side as well, which is basically screaming, just screaming your lungs out and hoping for the best. And I kind of tried to mix it all together. Like, it wasn't a very conscious idea. I think that's why it sounds a bit, I think it sounds organic, because I wasn't like, no, I mix this and mix that. I just let it out, try different things, and of all the different things that I tried, now this sounds a little bit better, let's go this way. Not exactly better, but aesthetically how I wanted to present myself. I didn't want to be a generic deathcore vocalist, although I love deathcore. I love Die Hard is Murder, I love Shore, I love Whitechapel. Those are huge influences for me, but like I put them, in terms of artistic expression, I really wanted to put them on the shelf because I didn't think I would distinguish myself that way. And I'm still learning. Like every album, every release is a learning process. Like you experiment with your voice and like, how can I do it differently, but without without forcing it too much. And it's always, to me, and that depends on the person, I guess, but to me it's always trial and error. Record yourself, suffer by listening to yourself, choose the recording which makes you suffer the least, go from there.
That's the basics, really. And about that, like recordings and stuff, what do you do to maintain your vocal cords healthy when you're on studio recording or on tour, doing concerts and stuff? What do you do to keep it healthy?
Well, I do my best to behave. In concerts, I'm not the most well-behaved person. But like in the studio, everybody has like a magic formula. I really don't. I just lukewarm water. No alcohol. Like, I know some people feel like alcohol is good. It's really not. Like, it might help you like unwind a bit psychologically, but it really dries up your vocal cords. And like, if you need it, that's fine. But I don't need alcohol to unwind. In the studio, I just need a mic and somebody to press rec, and I'll be fine. I really don't need it. So I just drink some lukewarm water. Careful with like things like smoking, things like alcohol, and just
true.
One of the most important things to me is also just like to try. Like, this has to be a natural mechanism. It can't be, of course, it's a conscious mechanism up to a certain point, but you cannot be tense. You cannot force it too much. If you force it too much, you're gonna get tired quickly. You're gonna lose control over your voice. You're not gonna be able to express yourself in the way that you want to. And and recording sessions get shorter, and the next day is a lot harder. So you need to be relaxed. You need to be chill. You need to get the technique right. One thing that really helps me a lot in terms of tension is like, just try to reduce entropy in the studio. For example, just like those basic things that people would think they're basic, but they're not. I have some producer friends that tell me like things so simple as know the lyrics before you get to the studio. Know the lyrics. You can have them in front of you, that's okay, but know the lyrics, and that's not just because of the producer's mental health, although it does help.
True.
Pity them, they suffer a lot, but it helps you be chill and think about how you're going to express those lyrics, because if you're thinking about writing them, if you don't have them like at least barely memorize it, and be able to recite them off the top of your head, you're not going to be chill enough. You're going to be tense. You're going to be thinking about it in your occupied mental space, and just that's one of the many details that you can pay attention to just reduce entropy, so you can be as chill as possible. And I know it sounds like counterintuitive, but it really isn't. if you think about it, like this is emotional expression.
True.
So you need to be able to let it go. And pressure, although I'm sure it helps with some people, with a lot of people, and I'm one of those people, it doesn't work. I need to be like just no issues at all. Everything else that is not singing must be like perfectly organized, so I don't have to worry about anything, and I can just let it go and have time to experiment with a ton of different metrics, a ton of different tones, a ton of different dynamics. Even that, I try to take it a bit prepared to the studio. Like, it's because it's fun. It's a bit of like it is writing music when you're at home thinking about, in this part I'm going to do a crescendo, I'm going to do a low, I'm going to do a mid, a high here. I'm going to end with this, I'm going to prolong it up to here and have these notes, you take them to the studio and you improvise a bit on them, and that, to me, that really helps. Just, I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. And I think you were talking about knowing the lyrics. Well, I think some vocalists, I know that they don't write the lyrics, but I think every vocalist, even if they don't feel comfortable writing the lyrics, I think they should at least be involved a little bit in the process of writing them. Because, man, it's you're going to be singing them, so...
Yeah, I get it, but you don't have to. Well, in my opinion, for example, actors are almost never involved in the process of writing what they're saying. So if you don't want to be involved, that's okay. I actually love writing lyrics. That's my favorite part. But if you don't like it, that's fine. But you have to know that as a vocalist, it's your job to sell it.
Yeah.
You have to sell it.
Yeah.
Like you wrote it yourself. Like it's the thing that you couldn't live another day without putting that pen to paper and writing those thoughts. It doesn't matter if you're a guitarist, wrote it. It doesn't matter if you have a ghostwriter. I wrote for some bands in the past. I openly wrote for some bands in the past as well. And that's okay. But as a vocalist, you need to sell it. So if you don't want to be involved in the process of doing it, you're not going to get away from the process of having to read it, to understand it, and to get, like an actor does, to understand the motivation behind it and get in that headspace, get in that mindset. I'm talking about this from like an outside perspective because I always write my own lyrics, but this is how I see other people deal with it and do it correctly, so maybe that helps. I think it's a lot easier just to write your own lyrics.
True. That's what I do then. Well, talking about live performances, how do you prepare yourself for a live performance? Like, what goes through your head before you go on stage?
Usually, like, I don't have I don't have exactly a method. Before I get on stage, I try to warm up a bit. But I'm not thinking about what I'm doing, because one direction that I've tried to lead Moonshade for a couple of years, and the guys in that band are on par with it, is that we want to be an organic band. You know, we don't want to be a very performative band. Of course, there are parts where we kind of arrange, let's try to, before the show, let's try to do something like this in this part, but it's a bit vague. It always leaves room for experimentation, and I try not to think about what I'm doing before the show starts. I try to chill with the other bands, to help around if I can, to anything they might need, but the part of the show only starts when my time to come in arrives, and I just step on the stage, I look at the people, there's a click, and I just do my thing. It's not easy doing this because, like, not everything looks so cool if you don't plan anything. But to me, that's cool because that's what I grew up with. Like, I'm a punk at heart. I still listen to a lot of punk rock, and it's the type of music that I like, and that's what I think metal is kind of lacking sometimes. I think it's getting a bit too like this whole. I don't know. I don't want to be insulting, and I love heavy metal. I think that's obvious. It's my favorite genre in the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it feels like the scene and bands in general, whether famous or upcoming, it looks like performative anger. And I don't like that. I like real anger about real issues.
Mm-hmm.
I like seeing that people are feeling it. And sometimes I get a bit tired of seeing like this generalized rebellion against not anything really, just performative. Just like it's like that because it has to be. Satanic songs don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah,
it's all performative. Like the most songs, when you read those nihilistic lyrics, they're like they try so hard, and it doesn't feel like anything. Doesn't, I don't know. It feels like we're over planning stuff and feeling too little lately.
Okay.
And so that's we try to break apart from that a bit. In Moonshade, yes, we arrange some things, and yes, we think about things when we go into the studio and at rehearsal, but we try to keep it to a minimum.
Okay.
Because like this, it's just a different way of doing things.
I understand it, but yeah, in my case, I write about a character, so it's not something exactly real. It's a fictional story. So when I go on stage, I try to get in character and inside the mind of the character I write about. So yeah, the feelings I display on stage are the feelings I think the character would be displaying on the specific song. So that's for me. That's what I do. I don't think that's a common thing that people do. But yeah, that's the way I try to differentiate myself. Yeah, but I understand your point completely.
No, that's really cool, Mac, and that's when you actually are trying to get into a character, but you wrote the character to try to express what you were feeling, but you did it allegorically.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, indirectly, you're still expressing yourself. It's your feelings on that page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool. Like we did something like that in Sunday Throne on our first album, where we invented characters, we invented a whole allegorical tale, but the characters were real. They had feelings, they had a backstory, they had it. So we tried to actually give them that backstory by the way we communicated live or via social media.
Mm-hmm.
And live, I actually tried to get into character, but it's like that. Probably the same for you. That it's a character that I created to express certain feelings that I had. So
yeah,
deep down, I was just expressing myself.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I'm pretty sure you probably already felt like you don't need to plan it a lot because you know the character, you made it,
yeah,
or her, or.
Yeah, it's like just little details on the performance you might try to prepare, but the rest is organic. Yeah.
I call them anchors. Like you need to have like a certain guidelines, and you just improvise around them. Like just some things to keep you grounded, so you don't go off the rails.
So talking about live performances, here's a controversial question: how do you feel about cupping the mic?
I need to stop doing that shit. Look, it's like smoking. It feels good. It's a nasty habit. We all need to stop. And I'm saying I do it. I know it's not right. And like I kind of feel guilty about it. Like I see some live videos sometimes when we're cutting some footage for like Instagram or whatever. And I'm but it's a nasty habit. Like it really, like it kind of helped when I got like good in-ear plugs so I can listen to myself correctly. But like it's a nasty habit, and like those vocalists, like I'm just keeping it real. It doesn't work. It cuts a lot of dynamics.
Okay.
It doesn't sound good. A lot of vocalists try to defend it. I think just stop. Just keep it real. Just say it. Like, just say it. It sucks. We shouldn't do it. We do it, but we should.
Let's get a discussion in the chat, giving opinions about that. Why not? Well, do you have like a favorite song to perform live, and do you have a reason for it being special for you?
Favorite song to perform live. I really love performing Valley of Dying Stars, which is from our latest album, because, well, first of all, although the topic is kind of heavy, it's about the possibility of a nuclear holocaust, so it's not exactly a happy song. I find like the instrumental part very uplifting. I think it's epic. It's like Moonshade always had like kind of a boss fighting music vibe, and the song is kind of one of the best expressions we had of that. And it's special to me, that one and Epitaph, because they were the first Moonshade songs where, besides religion, that I've been with. That's all bands do that at some point or another, so it's not exactly original, but those were the two instances where I actually got to talk about something that's real, that's happening right now. Epitaph is about global warming, and Valley of Dying Stars is about the possibility of a nuclear holocaust. So I actually feel like I'm having a conversation people resonate with. I think the highest expression of that was like when we performed that festival here in Portugal, like Vallejo, when we were playing that song, and they had a huge screen when you could project videos, and we took a video that was synchronized with our songs, and you had like a huge version of Robert J. Oppenheimer behind me, like just his huge face in that video when he quotes the Bhagavad Gita and says, "Now I have become death, destroyer of worlds." You see his lips moving, but you hear Valley of Dying Stars, and I come out and I pull out an Ukrainian flag, and that's what made me feel like that vibe that I actually want to bring to Moonshade a bit, like bring the Rage Against the Machine back, like just talk about real topics, real issues, and I always wanted to do that. That felt so fucking cool. So, and we will keep doing that. And I think that was a good start. That's why I really like performing that song. I actually feel it. I feel most Moonshade songs, if you don't count like the Sun Dethroned album, which can be considered a social critique, but it's still more like a fantastic story. But most of our songs actually approach actual topics, but in a very indirect manner. And Valley of Dying Stars is not indirect. It's straight up.
Straight up. Yeah. Well, can you tell us a bit more about the challenges you faced as a vocalist and how you overcome them?
Well, challenges. As a vocalist, definitely. I think the biggest challenge is to maintain a healthy voice and to maintain a proper technique. And, well, at least as a harsh vocalist, and then to have like a projection in, because since I sing Fry, projection is an issue.
Yeah.
And all of that, there's only one cure for it, which is practice. Yeah. Practice. It also helps a lot to have classical training. So I had lessons with Sandra, that participated in many of our songs. She's a vocalist from the play Zeus. She has an amazing voice. She has classical training and jazz training. And she really helped me learn how to place my voice, to train my ear, to realize what I'm doing with my voice. And she actually taught me what is happening when I sing. Although normally we would just approach like normal singing, like lyrical style mostly. I don't think I shouted once in 2 years of classes, and that really helps. It's a bit about that thing we talked about earlier, which is knowing the vocal style. Kind of goes beyond that.
Yeah.
Classical training really helps you understand everything and how you're supposed to do it, and how guttural vocals subvert that. So you can do it safely, you can do it with more control, and you can experiment with tons of different stuff. It really helps.
Yeah, because the basics, the fundamentals are the same. So I think it creates a really good foundation for extreme vocals. And lately also I've been getting into that kind of vocal, getting into clean vocals, and you may expect sooner or later a cover with clean vocals. I don't know if I feel ready for it. But yeah, I think every vocalist should try clean vocals, because it's really amazing to get a good foundation. That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's the basics of everything. It's like it's how we've done it for millennia. There's always been more guttural styles of vocals throughout the centuries, but like the most dominant way of doing it, at least in the last, I don't know, a couple of thousand years, has been clean singing. It's been developed to an extent where it's probably the most well-known art form sonic-wise. So there's a lot of studies, there's a lot of practice, there's a lot of so many different ways of doing it, and it's the basis for everything. It's even the basis for heavy metal. Like Black Sabbath didn't come out with breakdowns and pig squeals. They came out with Iron Man and with War Pigs, and those were clean vocals. And then you had bands like from in the 80s all the way through the 90s. Yes, you had bands that did good old vocals, but the predominant thing up until this point, maybe, where I kind of feel like there has been a cultural shift in heavy metal. But the predominant theme has always been clean vocals. So that's the basis of singing, and it's the basis of singing heavy metal. So you need to know that even if you just do guttural vocals, and even if today guttural vocals seem to be gaining a lot of popularity, you cannot get away from the clean singing. There's a lot of people, you see them like online, metal fans and metal vocalists, like, I don't like clean voices. Like, dude, it's not about, if you're a vocalist, it's not about where you like it. It's about, you want to do guttural vocals right or not. If you want to do it right, get into clean singing. And if you don't like it, well, toughen up, buttercup.
True. Well, talking about other vocalists, what are your main influences in music, and how did they influence you as a vocalist?
Right now, in music, well, if we talk about guttural vocals, Lorna Shore, definitely. Currents, Knock Loose, or How Different It Is. Lyrically, it also influences me a lot, Knock Loose. Most of like the upcoming bands within the core genre have really brought many interesting addendums to the table in terms of vocals, whether clean or not. For example, if you see Spirit Box, if you see even a band like Gojira, you never heard somebody sing like that. So and Gojira is more on the progressive side. My main influences right now would be mostly on the core side, band, and lyrically it depends. I don't influence. I'm not influenced by metal lyricists. I'm influenced usually more by writers. Like metal lyricists are writers, so I didn't mean to say that. But I'm influenced more by books,
Okay.
like poetry, by both fiction and non-fiction and prose. I read a lot. Like my main influences for the last album were *Sapiens and Homo Deus* by Yuval Noah Harari, professor in University in Jerusalem. I think Richard Dawkins as well, the whole evolutionary aspect, and just a tiny bit of poetry and illuminism, like Voltaire, and a tiny little bit of Greek philosophy. Just more like I don't read a lot of classic Greek philosophy, but I enjoy the aesthetic part of it, so I got into it just so I could insert some philosophy and mythology and lyrics. But yeah, it depends on what I'm reading at the time. Like, for example, when we wrote a song that we have in the last album called "The Antagonists," which features Sophia Becker from Phase Transition. I was reading a lot of I remember I was reading Karl Marx. I was reading The Open Veins of Latin America. I was reading a lot of what you would call like left-wing literature, and that kind of gives you that whole Rage Against the Machine aspect. And so that song's called The Antagonist, because I'm literally being an antagonist. So, and it depends a lot. I try to keep it like mostly I decide a common theme that gathers or at least unites most of what I'm reading at that time. Then I go to research a bit more. But in terms of metal lyricists that I'm not necessarily influenced, but that they write incredibly well. Mm-hmm. I would say Danny Filth, if you want like the whole more Shakespearean vibe, okay. Gothic. But the guy has an amazing vocabulary. You have Will from Lorna again. I'm always talking about the guy. If you read the lyrics to Sun Eater, that's not your classic the metal lyric that actually has a lot of inspiration. The metrics are great, like the way he works with it. And then you have like rappers. I'm really into rap because of the metrics. The way that they take a simple rhythm, simple rhythmic notation, and just dance around it, just make a whole fuck ton of different metrics that really helps me. And also like the multisyllabic rhyming, which is way more common in rap. I do it in Moonshade, but it's not very common in heavy metal. Just to sum it up, for those who don't know, it's just like in a verse, two verses that supposedly rhyme. Not just the last word rhymes, but like you have a lot of intra rhymes, like inside the verse. There are a lot of different words that rhyme with another ones, or with words in the same verse. You also have rhyming through phonetics, not exactly pure rhymes. So it basically creates a musicality in the lyric. And you see that a lot in poetry and mostly in rap, but for a ton of years you can see that in Rakim and Tupac and Biggie, especially Biggie and Rakim, and now all the way through like Eminem, which is a bit like I'm not a huge fan of Eminem, but he does do that very well. Mm-hmm.
True.
But yeah, in terms of metrics and just different rhymes, not exactly the theme, not proper, but the way how they work the language. Rap is a very huge influence for me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You have like a really broad range of influences I see in music, and that's a really good thing to like be more creative and out of the box. It's to have a really broad range of influences. I think that's really good, really important. Can you tell us a bit more about the future of Moonshade? Are there like any concerts or albums in the making?
Yes, I can. This year, depends on how much I can reveal, but I think that's okay. This year we're gonna do 3 festivals, one outside the country but not too far, and 2 festivals here. One's already announced, which is Metallica Também Chora. And then we're gonna do 4 or 5 dates with a very cool Portuguese band that we love very much here in Portugal. They're gonna present a new album, and they're gonna take us on a small hike through the country. And then for 2024, we have another festival in Portugal lined, and then we're gonna do 2 or 3 dates. I'm not sure. In Spain, we're still working on that. And we're trying to book some more. And meanwhile, we're trying to write some new music, because like the last releases were very spaced out between them, and it's a bit tiring to wait like 3-4 years for new music to because it's not just waiting. It's 3 to 4 years of almost pure logistics, not writing music, taking care of the social media, merch, doing shows, whatever. And so you can just sit down for a couple of days in 1 year and actually write something, you know. So we're trying to fix that, and we're trying to start writing. Right now, the album is half a year old. One of our biggest mistakes is that we only started writing a year and a half after the last release. It's not going to happen again. So we're already on it. Some original music, some not.
All right.
You guys will see.
Okay. Excited to see what's to come next.
Cheers.
What advice would you give to someone that's just starting and wants to be a vocalist? What kind of hints and advice would you give them?
Take care of your voice, man. I know none of us, like, all of us say that, none of us do that. Just be the first person to do that, please. Like, you're not gonna get any points or because you don't respect your body enough. And like, and take the time not just to take care of it physically, but also to learn, to study. I know it's not metal to say study, but it's like, having a band is not metal. Being a fan is metal. Having a band is nerding out about music and mostly logistics and figuring out who's going to do your next shirt because the last batch got fucked up. So that's not, having a band is fun. It's fun, but you got to be able to put in the work. And like, as a vocalist, just find your own voice. Don't use other people's voices. Whether it's your behavior off the stage or on stage, find your own voice. Be yourself. Like, have influences, but don't be like too influential. You know?
Yeah, I get it. And that's a real problem for a lot of people. Yeah, I'd say. I think that's how everyone starts. You gotta start with an influence, but then you gotta figure out your stuff, man. That's what I think everyone should do. So yeah.
Exactly.
So man, Ricardo, this has been amazing, but we gotta end the interview now. So wish you the best of luck for the future, Ricardo. So once again, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There are more content in the making. Down there you'll find links to Ricardo and to Moonshade in the description. And I will leave you in the end with a small sample of what they do on stage. So yeah, bye Ricardo. Until next time. It was a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Same here.
We'll Set me eyes,